Speaking of Aggie Baseball, another home series, like I said, this weekend against Illinois Chicago, another good mid-major team. But listen, we're not going to know anything. The litmus test is next week in Houston at the Shriners Classic, where they have got Baylor, TCU, and U of H over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Minute Maid Park. Not super impressive in the midweek, a 5-3 win. I couldn't believe they played that game on Tuesday night. With the amount of rain and wind and cold that was prevalent throughout Bryan College Station all day. And then when I found out they were playing, I imagined that it would be very minimally attended, and then there would be very few runs scored when you look at the conditions that those guys were playing in and how much that benefited the pitching on Tuesday night. And then last night kind of struggled with Prairie View A&M through the first 4 or 5 innings, and I believe they rattled off 8 runs in their final 3 at-bats in the 6th, 7th, and 8th to extend the lead and put the game to bed and win 9-1. Encouraging signs last night from left-handed pitcher Chris Weber. That's 5 now, 5 starting pitchers, left-handed starting pitchers in the first 5 games for Rob Childress and company in Aggie Baseball. And there's still so many more in the bullpen. We've seen cameos from Chandler Joe's walked out twice. We've seen Moo Menifee come in. There's just the lefties, Dustin Signs. I think he started the Tuesday game, but lefties are aplenty in that A&M bullpen and in that A&M starting rotation. And it's going to, no matter what happens with this season, it's going to present problems to opposing offenses in the SEC because you can't stack the lineup with left-handed hitters, and you may have to make some alterations late in the game because the A&M staff can come at you so many different ways. In terms of right-handed pitching, I've been super impressed with Christian Roa. And if that kid's not pushing to be one of the weekend starters or even a midweek guy, and it's going to be kind of crazy. Like if A&M was playing a Texas or U of H in the midweek, I think Christian Roa is going to be your starter. When A&M goes to Austin, if nothing changes, if status quo holds, when they go to Austin here in a couple of weeks or in a few weeks, I believe Christian Rowe will get the ball to start that game. And based off what he's done so far this season, he's been fantastic, and you would feel good about him giving a quality start to the Aggies in a midweek, a big midweek. And then had some front table guys ask me about Shoemake and his start, and obviously not an ideal start for the Aggies all-conference shortstop and freshman All-American, SEC Player of the Year, that kind of freshman of the year. You would have liked to seen him get off to a better start just to build his confidence. It is a slump. I mean, it's an early season slump. It can be overcome. Just like Liucci. Every day Liucci wakes up in the morning, it's an early morning slump. By the afternoon, he overcomes it. So hopefully Braden Shoemake can take the same approach to his season that Billy Liucci takes to every day of his life.
I mean, it was a good attempt by you. I'll give you that.
He's never going to give me credit for anything.
That wasn't that funny. It was like I heard 2 of 14 people
well,
at the
front
front
table
table laugh. They can't hear, like he said. Like, yeah.
Hey,
don't be getting on the front table. That's my team right there.
Oh,
front table is my crowd.
You keep showing up later and later, and that applause is going to get lighter,
louder and louder. Because if I'm a couple minutes late, it's like, oh, thank goodness Billy's there. If it's like 4 minutes late, thank God he made it. And if it's like any longer than that, they're like, good Lord, Bronny's breaking down the Prairie View baseball game for 45 minutes. Get Liucci in here ASAP.
I was going to lead with this,
nice start for them, by the way.
Zion Williamson story that happened last night.
Mm-hmm.
If there's ever been a case for the basketball reshuffling of the draft and all that kind of stuff and, making those kids go to college, it was last night. You've essentially got the best basketball prospect since LeBron James coming out of high school. May have ended his season. I don't know. I haven't seen the diagnosis yet because his shoe breaks. His shoe literally tore in half as he was going to plant and rolled, and something happened with his knee. So he's definitely, he went out of the Duke, North Carolina game last night. I haven't seen anything about a prognosis about how long he'll be out, but it may be the most expensive knee injury in terms of the grand scheme of the whole process that's happened in a while.
Well, as usual, you have jumped the shark with this overreaction to the actual injury because it sounds like it's a pretty minor injury. Now, you have not jumped the shark in what you're talking about, which is the big picture.
with the collective
does he
gasp,
come back? It's the same deal Duke and Coach K went through. Not the same because his injury sounds like is a lot less than but Kyrie Irving suffered an injury, and then kind of that was the end of his Duke career before it even started. Then you have Ed Oliver pulling himself out for what Major Applewhite clearly thought was a playable injury. Mm-hmm. It's a little different in basketball because these coaches understand going in that they're renting these guys. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit different understanding.
Especially a kid like that.
Yeah, it's like Zion Williamson. You come to my school, we're going to take care of you. You're going to leave here a higher draft pick than when you came. You know, we're gonna maintain your number one status, mm-hmm. and part of that means we're not going to put you in harm's way. So I'm sure Coach K is better equipped to handle that than anyone. He and you know Calipari are as well equipped to just kind of sit down with the kid and his family and say, "Is this worth it
for you to come back?
Is making a run at a national title worth it for you?" And if it's a minor knee injury, you know, let's say it's a minor knee injury and they say, look, in 3 weeks he'll be 100%. You know, normally this is you could be back in 4 days or 5 days a week. We'll hold you out 3 weeks. You come back, you'll be fine. Or is this something that, hey, we're going to sit you down and revisit it? You know, you might say we're going to sit you down and revisit this when we start March Madness. You know, when we're going to revisit you playing in the actual tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe the ACC tournament to get get the cohesion back and then
fitness game, yeah.
But we don't know the extent of it, but it was said that it was considered to be pretty minor.
Do you think that there's pressure on Duke about how they handle this?
Yeah.
Because
they're going to recruit a lot more.
At the highest level, don't you think Calipari would use that against Coach K? I mean, how much
pressure on college basketball? Let him sit out. But now, it's just college sports is just there's a problem in college athletics right now in that the money has gotten so big and so life-changing. At the higher levels, I think kids more and more are getting paid a lot of money to attend these schools. And I think it's a shame, but more so than they ever have and with more alarming regularity than ever by these power premier programs.
Well, they've already been busted by, the AAU stuff that came out. Yeah,
with that going on in basketball. And then, like I said, I think there's about 3 schools in the SEC right now in football. They're just absolutely out of control.
Playing a different game.
And it's gotten to a point where if you're having to pay guys to come and their family members and things like that, and then you're having to, they're worried about this bigger payout, and they're just kind of biding their time under you until they can cash in, and that's kind of their whole purpose. I saw some of the A&M guys saying it like joke. They joke, but they don't joke. Some of the guys that came out early and all their buddies on the team were like, go get that bag, go get that bag. Mm-hmm. And it's what all college athletes say, and it's a thing, but it is becoming part of the culture. More so, it's always been, but more so than ever before, is hell yeah, man, go get paid. And some guys do, and I can't blame them. And for some, getting paid NFL league minimum is life-changing money.
For their entire family.
It's more than most of us will make in a year. So
not the
who
front table.
Can fault them, especially in your 20s. So, but then those ones like Zion Williamson or like, say, a Myles Garrett, Myles wrestled with that his whole junior year because Myles was consistently fighting that high ankle sprain, courtesy of the Dan Skipper cheap shot.
Gabe Bach's favorite player.
Gabe's favorite player. Courtesy of the Skipper. And Myles battled a high ankle sprain all season. And it cost him a lot of practice time, which in turn hurts your performance. He was getting triple teamed at times. So there were things that he had to look at and say, hey, am I hurting my stock by going out here? But he didn't let that stop him. He played through it in true Myles Garrett fashion. He went out in a bowl game and played. But all these guys have this to think about. A&M, do you play in your bowl game if you're Travion Williams? He knew he knew in his heart of hearts that was going to be his final year with all the carries he was getting and where his stock was. But he wanted to go out and play one more time with his teammates, set that record if he could, have that special night. Christian Kirk did it in the Wake Forest game, suffered what looked like a severe injury, had the whole sideline holding its breath, came back in and played. This is the ongoing Bronny just tug of war that's going to continue for a while. Now, I do think in the NBA, I think that they're going to cut that rope, and it's going to be you can go pro.
Out of high school.
Yeah, that one, I think that tug of war is going to come to an end
I don't
soon.
like the one-year deal, Luch. I like the way they've got it in college football or in college baseball where you've got to be 21 or have been there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go, if you think you're so good that you want to go straight to the pro or you want to be a one-year guy, go to junior college.
Yeah.
And go play at a junior college for a year and then get drafted.
I just think that the NBA, more than any of those sports, has these stars coming out of high school that are good enough to play in the NBA more so than baseball. And because baseball is just it's such an acquired skill to face, to jump from high school to major league pitching, to be able to hit that and to be able to throw to big league hitters. And you've got such an extensive I know the NBA is trying to get that with the G League, but you've got such an extensive minor league system. Football, it's the whole physical element. It's very rare that guys coming out of high school can physically play that game without really putting themselves in harm's way. Basketball is different. A guy like Zion Williamson.
Well, he'd have been in the dunk contest last week.
And would have made won the dunk contest, and however much money comes with that, he would have. He could easily play at that level. We've seen countless guys do it when they were allowed to. It's just different, and I think the rules should be different. I agree with you. One year is kind of worthless, and it does no one any favors. It does no one any favors in the in the NBA or in college basketball, except for a couple of elite programs.
I like the term you use in renting. On the other side of the break, we will, as we get closer to spring football, we'll get Liucci's thoughts on some of the big questions heading into spring ball. You listen to Blue Hour Lunch live on The Zone.